Well, hello, everybody. Sorry we got started a little late, as usual, the tech headaches of education and trying to synchronize all the gadgets. So my name is George Lady. Along with Beth Abels and Joe Bellenhorf, we three are the Sustainable Environment Institute of the LA Community College District. The LACCD created, or the District Academic Senate actually created the SEI way back in 2010, even before then, but we actually came into being as a unit of the Academic Senate in 2010. So it's only recently that we've had from the Chancellor's Office and from District Academic Senate President Angela Echeverry enough FTE to increase the amount of staff hours dedicated to the Institute. And that's been wonderful since about last year, summer last year. We've had Beth and Zhao to help along with what had been basically a folder on a hard drive. Now an institute. And what you can see is that we have guests today. We're very happy to have Dustin Lehren and Stella Setka. Stella Setka is a professor of English right here at West LA College, and Dustin Lehren, sorry, is professor of English at LA Pierce College. And so this is a list of bullet points that shows you what the SEI is mostly up to. There's a little bit more than this, but very importantly is the monthly seminars that we sponsor through the Professional Development College, our monthly newsletter. We curate a website that has tons of resources for faculty to enhance their courses and keep up to date with environmental news. We coordinate with other district entities on campus events and curriculum development, including sustainability committees on several of our campuses. And we take part in climate education efforts in the LAUSD from K through 12, and this center at West LA College, the Climate Center, that has now been up and running for quite a few months. I'm very happy to see that the district now has major resources in this climate center. We develop special projects on climate justice, mental health, and student outreach. We promote climate literacy in all disciplines, and we lobby for the legislature to fund community colleges when it comes to climate and environmental education. We are often the one left out when it comes to the largesse of Sacramento. So there are some real advances in K through 12. Governor Newsom just signed a bill, I think last week, maybe the week before, AB 283, I think it is, and that actually earmarks specifically for climate education in K through 12. The UC system and the Cal State system also have special earmarked money in the budget for their climate education. So that is why we lobby for the community college system to get similarly funded so that we can have climate literacy happen in all disciplines, not just the STEM silo, and on all campuses in the state, beginning with our very own district. And today we have an issue that is the overarching theme for today is all careers are climate careers. So to that end, we have found a very short video clip that basically makes that point, but very importantly, it draws to what is a resource, an online resource for students to actually research opportunities. If you are familiar with the Drawdown book, it has many, many chapters on what can be done to make a shift to a sustainable economy. Very well organized, and it's very optimistic. So that students that access their site will be able to visit various topics that are in Drawdown and then find internships and paid positions under that category. And very importantly, it does go beyond what we call the STEM silo. And now go ahead and run the next slide, this video. And it should
One of the most powerful ways to be part of climate action is to re-evaluate your paying job. Most of us work 8 hours or more per day. So what if our work was to help solve climate change and related issues, or even introduce climate solutions into our existing jobs? If your current job is damaging the planet in any way, then find what difference you can make, whether it is having climate education workshops, finding a specific climate solution project for your company, talking to your superiors, or even emailing your CEOs. Project Drawdown has an excellent how-to guide for employees looking to implement climate solutions in their workplace. Investors and companies are increasingly pouring money into ecosystem restoration, regenerative agriculture, mass deployments of renewables, grid electrification, ocean conservation, emissions reduction, and carbon removal. If you're seriously interested in a climate career, regardless of your background, then please do check out climatebase.org for the state-of-the-art database on climate jobs. You can find impactful and meaningful jobs across the globe and in sectors arranged by drawdown solutions. 5 to 10 years ago, a climate career would have meant becoming a climate scientist and working on climate models or related scientific research. That is not the case anymore. I have met people from a variety of backgrounds, which include marketing, art, finance, computer science, and so forth, who are either working in or transitioning to a climate career. We are currently seeing the beginning of an exponential growth in startups and companies focusing on climate solutions. So now is really the best time to jumpstart your climate careers, no matter what your background is. We absolutely need to work together to build sustainable systems in the long term.
So the next slide.
One of the most powerful...
It will repeat, that's one of the features. So this underlines and really underscores the emphasis that we want to give climate education, climate literacy, and environmental jobs that are not restricted to the STEM fields, even if we are in a math building. And you could see that increasingly there are opportunities for students to use even degrees in the social sciences and humanities for environmental organization, environmental activism, and informing or taking part in community education when it comes to those uneven environmental insults faced by so many communities in Los Angeles that are negatively affected by what we could call environmental bads, whether it's wrecking yards and garbage dumps or just being meshed in by freeways that are spewing diesel. So our emphasis in environmental education is also on environmental or climate justice. We've run in our series of seminars, now many seminars that touch on this particular issue. So the slide you're seeing now is what was an exhortation by the LA Times and their sister paper, I guess it is, called the Daily Pilot, right before Gavin Newsom actually signed the bill, AB 283, I think it is, for K-12 climate education. So this is something that we want to see reproduced with the same amount of energy and support. We have in this next slide what our programs, they're all linked, are programs in existing community colleges that are probably the more advanced ones in the state that merit some kind of examination and, dare I say, copying. Once you see success at one community college, particularly a few community colleges, then adopting parts, if not all, of what they've done with climate education really will shorten the time span needed, since urgency is of essence. Below that, you'll see the Community College Board of Governors has a statement on climate action and sustainability, as well as their Vision 2030, which has been guiding community colleges on sustainability for some time. So the library resources, which we have available to you through this QR code. So there are 3 QR codes in this presentation. This first one you're looking at will connect you to the Valley College library and the various, I want to say modules, but they're actually whole web pages, whole websites developed by Xiao Bellenhorst on environmental racism and environmental justice, climate anxiety, and climate action. In addition to that, we have modules that we're working on in Canvas, and they get updated all the time, and that allows faculty to import into their courses materials that we're sharing on Canvas. A login is required. You need to be faculty in the LACCD. Yes, John.
Just no worries. You will be able to get. We will put this on the website for SEI, so you can get everything.
Oh,
No worries about, because you won't be able to get to the link anyway. So don't worry about right this second.
And then, of course, there's the climate literacy resource collection, which is a very important link for enhancing courses. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our 2 guests for today. Dustin Lehren is a professor of English at LA Pierce College, and I know that Beth Abels knows him well. So maybe I could let Beth introduce our guests, if you would like to do that, Beth, or do you want me to continue?
I think you're doing a great job, and since you can't really see me very well, I think it's great if you just keep going there.
Well, I do want to share with you the fact that both of these professors today that we're having as guests, both of them are in the humanities and not in the STEM fields. So this is evidence of how much ground can be gained in implementing climate aspects to your course materials. So he has a play called Take a Look. It was just produced this summer by the Actors Studio, and he's a playwright and a member He's also just finished a playwriting residence with the Penn Center, teaching community-based playwriting as a high school in Compton. He's also done extensive work with the Unusual Suspects Theater to produce community-based plays in prisons and probation. So with a lot of commitment to using theater as a way to educate communities and to educate people who are probably otherwise disadvantaged is a real testament to the kind of work that Lehren does. I want to actually also introduce to you, I'll let them do this in turn, but Stella Setka is a Ph.D. She's a professor of English right here on this campus. And she's also the director of the Transfer Honors Program. She's the author of Empathy and the Phantasmic Ethnic American Trauma Narrative. She's published essays on ethnic American literature, women's writing in various edited collections and academic journals, including Modern Fiction Studies, Milus, and Mosaic. Stella is currently at work on a second book project that examines the use of midrash in contemporary Jewish American literature. So we are also supplying 2 links there to what Arshia put online and sharing with everybody, both in terms of syllabus content and the teaching resources database. So let me turn it over now to Dustin. Go ahead, and I'll just lower my screen here, and hopefully that didn't mess things up. All righty.
Okay.
Dustin Lehren.
Yeah, thank you, George. Thanks. Happy to be here. It's funny. Last time I was with you, Beth, you were in person and George was on Zoom. So I feel like I've come full circle. Well, thank you. Welcome. Here, let me see what time I want to make sure I give Stella enough time. Nice to see you. Okay, so I guess I'll start off kind of where I'm coming from. I'm in the English department. I think there was a little bit of irony, or at least I saw, on being invited to all careers or climate and being in the English department. I don't know what Stella's, I guess us in the humanities, we have a different sort of vision a lot of time, right? On, we're not as, well, I can't speak for everyone, but I know myself, not as obsessed with making sure education, leads right to a job, right? Of course, I know it's important, but, there's a saying, what the education should prepare you for the last job you have as opposed to the first job you have. And I really believe in that. And so, I think what I've been working on is, working on ways to sort of inspire students that, somewhere down the road that hopefully this idea of climate literacy starts to impact them, right? If you just sort of give a goal, like do this and you'll make lots of money, that might work, but I don't know if it has a lasting impact. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of coming from, and thanks, George, for the background and the theater. So it kind of came from going in prisons and doing different things like that, and using theater. So I met Beth through the Gold Creek Committee, and also she's at Pierce College. And so what I'm working on is basically trying to teach a climate literature class where a hybrid course where we meet 4 times at the Gold Creek site. So the idea is sort of unplugging, disconnecting, getting up there. I've led a couple workshops up there in creative writing, but now I want to just do a full-on literature course where we meet up there, and kind of stems from the pandemic. A lot of us having I'm sure you guys are all aware, especially. I'm just curious, how many faculty are here? Oh, good number of you. Okay, and then out of you, how many are humanities? Okay, so the rest are sciences. So I've already made some enemies. So, but I hopefully working at Gold Creek also all math and science people too, and sort of the stuff we're working on, kind of working together. So yeah, I guess I'll just break into sort of what I've been working on. I don't know, Beth, did you guys have any slides on the lesson plan that I sent? George?
We have, yes, well, actually, in the slideshow are links, and
okay.
If
George, yeah.
It's okay if you don't.
no, I think we do have those. Right?
Oh, cool. Okay.
Particular slide.
Well, I'll keep talking while you guys look for this. So, I guess what I've been trying to do is this idea of field journaling or nature journaling with students. So basically getting them out in nature and practicing just sort of, a very traditional practice of nature journaling. For you science people, you probably know, there's a rich canon of this, Darwin, John Muir. I mean, not only that, but field journaling actually leading to, very important, evolution, right? Very important discoveries. So, starting there, and I've just learned a lot through doing this. And it's been one of my sort of philosophies of teaching is to always try to be curious and learn something from students. And so getting them out there, I'll be honest, it's always a little bit of a shit show, pardon my French. But there's a lot of obstacles to get over, but it's always super worthwhile. And so I kind of view this lesson plan, and hopefully there's a way. I brought some handouts if people want to take it. I'm pretty much borrowing and stealing this from another professor that I got to do a workshop with, and it's just really worked. And so yeah, I see this as just an entry level scaffolding. Just any class could kind of take this and run and use this in a science, even a math course, and start from there and kind of build this idea of climate literacy into your course. I like to start with an icebreaker. It's a kind of a goofy thing, but it's always worked. We did it even at one of our Gold Creek parties where you get two partners, and you actually you blindfold one person, right? And then the other person is sort of the guide / journaler, and they get to you have to ask for consent and all that, but you ask them to gently guide them to some aspect of nature. And I've even done this in our botanical garden. Some of the, this college is beautiful for those that teach here, like kind of blown away by the nature that you guys have here. But so you can do this anywhere. But of course, the more sort of wild you are, I first did it at LA River College. So the idea is you sort of get students to connect with the five senses. I know it sounds really rudimentary, almost like kindergarten, but this idea of connecting, not through just visual. I really think, Foucault calls it a panopticon. It's the idea that our society is very ruled through one sense, not the visual. And to get students to start thinking about, sights, sounds, smells, touch. And so you blindfold the student, you have another student lead them to some aspect, some curious part of nature, and they just start coming up with adjectives to whatever they're observing, and then the guide has to then record all of those. A really easy trick is you give them the "it reminds me of" prompt. So they're feeling some fluffy leaf, and they have to say, well, it reminds them. And it really, it just kind of gets fun, kind of opens it up. And then I give them this larger nature journaling prompt, and you guys are free to take one. I think I have about 10 here. And it's just a breakdown of how to sort of just sit alone and just get some journaling done. Really simply, oh yeah, sure. So actually, maybe I don't have that. Sorry. Oh, it's up here as well. So, and maybe I can upload this onto the Canvas site as well. So the idea is, some of the standard practices of field writing is, you record the time and the day, the weather, the location, and then just, different activities. Of course, drawing is a big activity. My students have really responded to the drawing aspect of it, collecting, counting, listing. And then just to give them, it's good to give them about 3 or 4 prompts to think about. So the 4 prompts that I have to think about is I notice. So just examining whatever it is they're looking at. I wonder. So curiosities. It reminds me of. Really does help them make personal connections. So their first word is like, this is weird. This is, it's like, okay, let's go a little deeper. What does it remind you of? And that helps to make personal connections, and then finally to reflect. And so it's on the reflecting that I've learned so much from my students. I had a class go out to the LA River in different aspects where it's a little, it's a little dicey at some of these spots, but eventually I think I don't know if you guys got it, but I just uploaded a couple of their journals just from a week ago that they did. And so many students, they started talking about memories of childhood, which I thought I was not expecting that. And it was the idea that these moments of nature kind of brought them back to a time when they were a little bit more innocent, but also connected with nature. And they kind of were all struck with this nostalgia. And I of course remember times at that time. I remember I hiked Catalina Island I grew up here in Southern California, and something about the pure nature of Catalina being pretty much Southern California, but without all the, buildings and people, I kind of got hit with the wave of nostalgia too. So I'm kind of wrestling with that, and I'm thinking for this climate literature course, I might play around with that. And the other thing I was kind of struck with, kind of asking the students, I just want to know, like, hey, was this a waste of your time? And a lot of them like, yeah, it was a little bit of a pain, it was, I had to like go before work, I had to find a spot, I had to go out of my way to do this. And I'm like, okay, but are you glad I made you do it? And a lot of them said, you know what, it was, it like de-stressed my day. I was kind of stressed out that day. And a lot of them, I saw that in their journal, how they were, talking about kind of being stressed out and just sitting there, helped them to sort of de-stress. I wasn't ready for that sort of discovery either. So that was pretty neat. And the irony was, I was talking to a student over Zoom, and she shared, she's like, I have so many things to do, for my family and school. And she's like, here's the irony. It's like, I wouldn't have done this if you didn't make me do it. But since you made me do it, it was a good excuse to go. And so, yeah, I feel pretty confident. And I've tried it out for about 2 semesters here. And yeah, I think it really works. So I think that's probably about my time. Yeah.
And any liability issues from the colleges, your college's standpoint of asking your enrolled students to meet you out in a place that's not the campus?
Well, of course, there's always liabilities, right? But basically, I have them sign a field trip form, and then also that's also the benefit if you do want to utilize. I don't want to get too off topic, but the district has basically what's called the Gold Creek site, and it's over 100-acre site that's up in the Angeles National Forest. So it's district property, and so that's what I've been trying to utilize. But of course, this would work, in any local spot around your college. But yeah, if you get a field trip form, that pretty much covers you.
And there's even a Gold Creek committee at the district, but mostly it's of biology, right? They're the one who's using it, but now we've got these other faculty who are using it, which should be the.
Well, I mean, I think that's why Stella and I are here. It's the idea, the Gold Creek, I got involved because they're like, hey, it's great. You're not in the, life sciences, please get involved. So the idea is we're trying to get more humanities people involved in the Gold Creek site, because I think it's most of people's opinion on the committee that it's just not utilized enough. We need to get more students up there. And, it really is, I'm a community college student, and you guys probably aware of your student population, like some haven't been on a hike, some haven't just been out. So it's a really good just way to sort of open some things up.
And I don't know if Justin, if yours is a proposal, they were also sending out proposals. They were asking for.
Yeah,
funded
what this
proposals
stemmed from was
you to have a learning activity for your class regardless of your discipline. And they were funding, I don't know how many, but quite a few.
Yeah.
From Gold Creek Committee.
Yeah, and then also I'm going to start marketing this climate literature class that I hope will be offered district-wide. So if you see like an email about that or anything, and you have students that you think might be interested, or just contact me personally, I'm really trying to kind of experiment and do different things. So I hope, as you guys know, it's always a battle with the numbers. So I'm really hoping to get some students involved. So, okay, I'll let you take it away, Stella.
Want to answer?
Sure.
Just a good question.
Yeah.
Have you tried implementing this with the high schools?
As far as, you mean going to high schools?
Yeah, so sorry, I was reading that you also assist at.
Oh,
high school
correct.
that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did. Is it similar to this or something completely different?
So the work that I do with the high schools it was a grant specifically tied to teaching playwriting. So, but I've had thought, I'll tell you guys my dream is to use the Gold Creek site for like an outdoor Shakespeare festival. So there's an amphitheater already set up. So yeah, I'm trying to, but that's really, we have to all work together. I think if there's a bit of a groundswell, and I think that if the idea, if we just build the culture, I think more and more people, it'll get easier for us to do things, I think. But thanks. All right, thank you for your time, and here's Stella.
Thank you guys for having me today. I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle, and it's going to go in a couple of different directions, but bear with me, there's a point. Before I address how I am currently integrating the subject of climate change into my English 103 course, I wanted to give you a little background to explain how I arrived at this new approach. So my first book examined the way that writers of Black, Jewish, and Native American descent address cultural traumas like enslavement, genocide, and dispossession. One of the key characteristics of the many novels, short stories, graphic memoirs, and films that I evaluated in connection with this project was that their primary rhetorical objective, the need to bear witness, was also imbricated with a desire to foster reader empathy. Without getting into too much theory, which is supported by research in cognitive psychology, we know, especially as English folks, that reading, especially reading literary fiction, is a powerful tool for fostering empathy. Empathy is a powerful emotion, one that can, in the right circumstances, inspire ethical thinking and inspire social action as well. So how does this relate to how one can embed the topic of climate change in a literature or composition course? Well, to quote my friend and colleague, Joanna Tavares, climate change is not merely a science issue, it's a communication issue. Part of the reason that the climate justice movement is stalling, I think, is because the average person either feels that it's too big for their individual decisions to make a meaningful impact, or that it's something that has to be solved by an entity bigger than themselves, like government agencies or institutions. And this is where disciplines in the humanities come into play. How do we render something that feels abstract, personal? How do we foster an ethics of care in our students and our community? Recently, I've been working on a project about a mid-century Jewish American poet named Chaim Plesik. I'm willing to bet that most of you have never heard his name, despite the fact that he was shortlisted for the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry 3 times in the span of 11 years. Anyway, just before his untimely death in 1961, Plesik was planning a book-length poem about the Holocaust. The challenge, he explained, was that for many, the sheer enormity of the catastrophe produced a numbing effect. It is hard enough to write a requiem for one man, he opined, but 6 million? Is there such a number? Grief ends beyond 1 or 2 or 3. Beyond that, there are only statistics. The problem that Plesik describes here is one of knowledge versus understanding. Knowledge is cerebral. Understanding requires a greater degree of emotional intimacy. All too often, when the subject of climate change arises, people become overwhelmed by the statistics and scientific facts. The problem is too big, and in some senses too abstract for people to connect to. And what we don't understand, we tend to ignore. The study of literature is one way to bridge this gap, to move beyond the anesthetic effects of statistics and data sets to establish, through the immediacy of narrative, a greater sense of intimacy between the reader and the issue of climate change. Now, does this mean that we need to exclusively read sci-fi novels like Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower or Louise Erdrich's Future Home of the Living God? Or do we need to read nature writing like Thoreau's Walden? Maybe, but not necessarily. If you are new to the subject of literature and the environment, I would suggest starting small by considering the concept of place as a framework for critical inquiry. What does it mean to have a connection to place? How does one's connection to place inform identity formation? And what does it mean when one's connection to place comes under threat or is severed? This emphasis on place came naturally to my work because trauma literature often revolves around a disruption of place. Stories dealing with the enslavement of African Americans will typically reference, even if only implicitly, the trauma of the Middle Passage. Contemporary Jewish American works dealing with the Holocaust will often reference the loss of place, the deliberate erasure of shtetl communities throughout Eastern Europe. And Native American literature frequently renders place, explicitly in the form of a connection to the land, as a central theme or source of conflict. For each of these groups, connection to place and displacement is inextricably bound to cultural memory and identity. Increasingly, narratives in which place is a central theme, such as narratives of migration and exile, The connection to land use and environmental issues as a catalyst for the disruption of place is becoming more prevalent. When I had the opportunity to apply for our Climate Across the Curriculum grant, I knew that I wanted to rethink my English 103 course, which I have been teaching through the lens of Native American studies for quite some time now. In this course, students read a variety of nonfiction and fiction that examines challenges faced by Native American communities in the United States. This is and always has been very much an interdisciplinary course, because for one to fully understand the stakes of a novel like Tommy Orange's There or Leslie Marmon Silko's Ceremony, they need to first learn about the history of colonization in the United States. The centuries-long history of Indigenous removal and displacement is directly connected to the ways in which both the US government and private corporations have sought to exploit the resources of Indigenous lands, often resulting in the further economic disenfranchisement of tribal communities and the pollution of their air, land, and water. For this semester, I added a 6-week unit exploring the history of this issue and its impact in the contemporary moment. To guide my class through this inquiry, I assigned Dina Julia Whitaker's As Long as Grass Grows, the Indigenous Fight for Environmental Justice from Colonization to Standing Rock. In this book, Julia Whitaker explores the fraught history of treaty violations, struggles for food and water security, and protection of sacred sites, while highlighting the important leadership of Indigenous women in the struggle. Ultimately, she argues, modern environmentalists must look to the history of Indigenous resistance for wisdom and inspiration in our common fight for a just and sustainable future. Although I will admit this is not an easy read, some of the chapters are quite dense and some students have complained about that. I appreciate how the text emphasizes what, to me, are perhaps the most crucial pieces of information I want my students to take away from this class, student learning outcomes aside. Marginalized communities are the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Although her book focuses on climate justice from an Indigenous perspective, Julia Whitaker establishes important parallels to other marginalized communities, both within and beyond the United States. I also really appreciate the way that it emphasizes the importance of coalition building and empowerment, and that really is the message. How can we use these tools and strategies to make a difference as we move forward? So now it's a good time for me to plug an upcoming event that we're hosting at West LA College. We will be hosting the author of this book, Dina Julia Whitaker, on Tuesday, November 14th from 12 to 1 p.m. When she will give a talk titled Environmental Justice and Climate Change, A Changing Landscape. The event will be both in-person and live streamed with a food truck and book signing for in-person attendees. You can also earn flex credit, faculty members. So please sign up. One final resource I would like to share with you all is the Association for the Study of Literature and the Environment. I've included 2 links there. This group was founded in 1992. They host a biennial conference. They have an academic journal. And for our purposes, I think most important to mention is that their website contains a wonderful repository of resources for teaching, not only for those in the discipline of English, but also other subject areas such as art history, humanities, environmental studies, theater, dance, philosophy, journalism, and many more. You'll find a lot of sample syllabi as well as some links to OER materials. I want to close by mentioning that many of the students who take my English 103 course are not English majors. They're taking this because it's a transfer requirement. But this course is an important component of what I believe we all hope will be a broader educational journey for our students. By exposing them to the subject of climate change and the struggle for climate justice from a broad variety of disciplinary perspectives, we can help them see how they can be agents of change regardless of their career path. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as you can see, we picked 2 outstanding faculty to educate us on ways of approaching climate education outside of our STEM fields. And I'm so glad that they're English teachers. In fact, I should tell you that the Sustainable Environment Institute was actually founded by an English professor at East LA College. So humanities have always been very keen on broadening what it is that students learn about, and Stella and Dustin do an excellent job of bringing nature in and history and people's life experiences so that education is thereby a lot richer. I want to turn it over to Beth Abels, who will let you know, one little thing, I do have to apologize, that for Dustin's page, when I transferred it all to PowerPoint, of course, the links were lost. So you were supposed to be able to click on the book cover and actually get, or excuse me, the journal article. It's a PDF. So just by way of saying, everything we're doing here is recorded, and we will have on our website for the date today, October 26th, we'll have a recording, we'll have the intro slides, we'll have the documents that were supplied by Dustin and Stella, and any other related materials that make this sort of complete when it comes to climate careers, etc. So have no fear, all of the materials that you've been exposed to today will be linked and uploaded to SDILACCD.net. Good, take it away, Beth. I think we still have good time, yes?
Yeah, can you turn the camera so I can see who's sitting with us today? Would you mind? Or someone could open their
If I could do
Zoom
that
and
without
and
being,
turn on their camera.
is that like,
Does it work? Okay, doesn't work.
a bit of a bozo?
That's all right.
voilà.
I just wanted to see who, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, beautiful.
I'm trying to pan it.
Well, gosh, thank you, Justin, and thank you, Stella, so much. And I want to kind of wrap up what we've been talking about with a quick discussion about climate anxiety and why we think what that has to do with embedding climate literacy into your curriculum across disciplines. And one of the things that that we're seeing is, this incredible increase in climate anxiety and a much more serious look at it than it has been in the past, and also a call for not trying to make it go away by calling it a pathology, but by understanding more that it's a real thing in a real reaction to a real time that has a real consequence. But one of the things that comes out the most in that discussion is that a practice for combating climate literacy is action. And what I think we run into as faculty is watching all these jobs, watching all these people do all this hard work around climate action. And we may start to feel like we need to get out there and be doing the work as well. And how do we manage that in the middle of our incredibly busy schedules? And so I know I face that. And that's one of the reasons that I'm involved with the SEI. But what I think we're seeing, what we believe is that the way faculty can really take action and help combat their own climate anxiety, and the way they can help their students combat that climate anxiety, is to be embedding that discussion in their classroom. So bringing climate literacy into the classroom so that students know that they're thinking about it and that they're starting to take steps, and faculty understand their commitment, and that their faculty are taking steps to help combat climate change and make for a much better world. So it makes me think that, I'm in Washington, D.C. I apologize for not being there. I'm at a National Science Foundation conference, and I went this morning out for a walk, and it was 82 degrees in Washington, D.C., and it's October 26th. And people are freaked out, right? They all have their winter jackets, and so people are wondering what happened to their beautiful fall. And so I'm wondering here if people are willing to share what's happening for you around climate. What's your sense here in Los Angeles? What's happening for you? What are your feelings about the weather or the hurricane that hit Acapulco that turned into a Category 5 in about 5 minutes? So I don't know if anybody wants to start, but I would love to hear what y'all are thinking.
Oh, no, shout it, I know, we're always thinking about climate.
So I can't hear very well, so I'm just assuming that I can't hear, and that's why nobody's saying anything. But yeah, I see that you do have your hand up back there. Thank you. Can you shout?
Yeah, so, I was in a conference in Palm Springs last week about, it was 105 just about every day,
Oh, man.
which is hot for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I just think last year, Thanksgiving, I don't know what the temperature was, but it was like really hot.
Yeah.
You know, when we need the air conditioner, which, you know, usually by October it cools off.
Yeah.
You know? And now we're getting into like, well, into November, and we're still using your air conditioner. and stuff. I think that's.
Yeah, and I could say from the world. Actually, I'm from Korea, and I'm just visiting LA. So this is my very first time visiting California. So I can see the weather is super great here, and maybe you guys seeing that the climate and weather is like changing from year to year, I guess. So I don't know well about the weather in California, but if I mention about the weather in Korea, you know, it's getting hotter and hotter, and I can see the climate changes every year, and some of the fruits are, you know, changing seasonally. I mean, there were like particular fruits you can have for seasons, but these days, because of the climate change, there were new tropical fruits you can get from Korea as well, and also that means some fruits are gone.
Yeah.
So I can feel that, you know, the climate change is really severe these days, and I'm a worker, I'm not a student. I'm visiting here to you know, seek for my future career in terms of climate change. That's why I'm participating in this work. So yeah, thank you for listening.
well, thank you. Anybody
one-
else?
One more, I just thought of the drought, you know, that's a big thing here in California, is the ongoing drought. And I think I read on the current news the other day, the Colorado River is like much lower than what it normally is, and in like several states, and even several Indian reservations are all fighting for that water.
Yeah.
They all hunt that water, and that's an ongoing issue with the drought. Not just California, but Western United States. And also fires, you know, fires used to not get all these fires, destroy like a whole city, you know. Everything's another thing, the climate, the wildfires.
Yeah, you know, I think about what Stella was saying about place and place being important. And we watch, right now, we're watching our place that we know that maybe we get used to, or we have expectations, or it's just something that always seems very solid to us, right? We always have this kind of weather. We always have Santa Ana's in October, right? In the hottest days of the year. And in fact, at least in my neighborhood, we didn't get any of that. So there's a lot of that sense, right? Of confusion and displacement in a, you know, sort of place that doesn't express the weather that we think of as always being the same. Sorry. So was there anybody else who wanted to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add, we had our, ICI had our last workshop on Heat Island in urban Los Angeles. And that was really, you know, what do you call it? So mind-boggling, you know, the rich neighborhood or the poor neighborhood could be 20 degrees cooler than the urban neighborhood because of trees, because of, you know, cement. So, you know, I want to bring this back, you know, thinking about climate, you know, climate justice is social justice. So I think when I was really taken by your saying, we want our students to be the change agent. So all these things we talk about really can really be applied to our like everyday life, you know, depends on your community. I think most of our students are in communities that lower income, people of color community. So we are suffering more of the climate change effect than some other neighborhoods. So we're hoping, you know, what SEI does, what all the education that we do here is for our students to learn about it, to what do you call it, to arm themselves with the knowledge, and they can advocate for themselves and their community, and to make sure all the climate policies or climate, whatever we are doing, mitigation, adaptation, is going to be equitable, not going to be only be benefiting, you know, certain neighborhoods, but not like the others. So we really need to make, yeah, what do you call it, it's like global changes in how policies are made, so we can all have a better life than what we're having now.
Yeah, thank you, Xiao, because I think the way we as faculty can make those changes is through students and reaching students and helping students develop those skills and develop the skills around green skills, develop climate literacy skills, and become advocates in their neighborhoods and their communities. And so if you need any other reasons to add climate literacy to your curriculum, I think we've talked about the jobs of the future. We've talked about the idea of action and the importance of being able to take action and being an advocate for our students to become advocates. And they need those skills in order to do that. They are making the decisions and making the choices now that are going to frame our future. And so we need to be able to step in and help them to do that with the expertise that we can add across curriculum.
I want to jump in a second, because one is I have a question for you, but before I ask this question for you, I want to point out that in what remains of our slides, we have two more links through QR codes. One would be for you to do a faculty evaluation, and you have those bookmarks on your tables, as well as evaluating today's breakout session. So those are the final two slides in the presentation. But I do have a question for Beth, because she's brought something up and it reminds me of the difficulty I have in teaching environmental science. You mentioned this hurricane in Acapulco, which went from tropical depression, tropical storm to Category 5 hurricane in 24 hours. That is unheard of, which is why there was no warning. No meteorologist has ever seen this happen, particularly on the western coast of Mexico, where hurricanes are in and of themselves rare. So everything we read, as I curate the website and put articles, I have to confess, Beth, I'm getting overwhelmed and exhausted, because everything is record breaking. Worst fires ever in Portugal, worst fires ever in Greece, worst fires ever in California. Lahaina was ruined by fire. And how do we deal with wanting to be active, wanting to instill and inculcate a sense of commitment and action on our students, at the same time being realistic about so much of this being overwhelming, and I dare say, in the worst case, it's paralyzing. There's nothing I can do. It's too much. But I think you have an insight on this, which is why you wanted us to deal with climate anxiety as part of this breakout. So any comments you might have on that, or directions or advice, that would help us who are teaching and have to be realistic as far as what our students are doing.
Yeah, and for me, I think the only thing I can say right now in the 2 minutes that we have is that it is starting to add this information to your giving students the ability to be seen in their fear, right? To show them not all the bad news. There's lots of fabulously wonderful opportunities and great things happening, but let them acknowledge that this is something that's happening for them, and let them get information that they need in your courses, regardless of what the course is, so that they can start to process it the way they might need to. So I have a couple of QR codes here, so you can email us if you want at sei@laccd.edu. If you have any questions, if there's anything we can do for you, we'll be happy to help. We have a survey here that's what the QR code is for. And that's a big, long survey, not that long, about 5 minutes, so that we can meet your needs, your educational needs, that we can help you to do that embedding of climate literacy. We can help get the resources. We can do all of that if we know what your actual needs are in order to embed that. So that's what this survey is. And then if you would be so kind, this survey, instantly just open it up. I think it has one question. And please just give us an evaluation so that we can we can get better and improve and know whether what we're offering is of any effect. And I want to thank everybody. I think it's so cool to see your curriculum, Stella, and your curriculum, Dustin. Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to go back. Did everybody get that QR code? Hopefully. I want to go back and remind you about our other resources. Let me find that slide. There we go. So, whoops, here it is. These are our library resource guides, and our modules and resource collection are all here. That QR code is for the resource collection, but you can find all of this on seilaccd.net. And on November 12th, coming up soon, we have another workshop that is a group of organizations that are working to help mitigate climate, or at least extreme heat in the city of Los Angeles. So we'll have a number of nonprofits coming to talk to us about that, and we'll advertise that out in our newsletter and such. So watch for your email. Anything I forgot?
Beth, can I share one thing?
Please.
Yeah, so Stella's talk, it's so funny, you were talking about Thoreau and Walden. I'm actually trying to teach Walden, and so, but what's funny is I'm kind of struggling with it, and your comment about making it local, I think really is helping me. But there's a quote that we were just talking about in my class. I thought I'd share it with you guys real quick. That's okay. He says, in the long run, men, women, hit only what they aim at. Therefore, though they should fail immediately, they better aim at something high. And I think that's really important for our students. I think aiming high really resonates with them. It's the reason a lot of us got into teaching community college. And they're not, they're not dumb. They know, they see what's going on. So yeah, I just thought it was a cool quote, and I wanted to share that with you guys.
I have taught Thoreau too, and I love it. So there's no shade.
Well, thank you, guests, Stella and Dustin, and thank you, Beth, for virtually co-hosting and keeping us all working with our slides today. Best of luck with your conference in Washington, D.C. I know that it's very busy, and I really want to thank all of you who attended today. Please, if you had a chance to look at those QR codes, we depend on feedback. That's how we know we're doing something right, or maybe we should aim higher. So with that, we'll end this breakout session. And remember that we are the seilaccd.net resource for your education.